Hello everybody, Caden here today with an episode of WildLife Park, and today we are back on the world to do something a little bit different. So, in the last couple episodes, obviously we've been focusing pretty heavily on the savannah area, getting in a bunch of our African animals, and kind of finishing off that part of the zoo. But today we're taking a little break from that, and as you've seen probably from the title and the thumbnail, we're doing polar bears. Why are we doing polar bears? I don't know, I just really felt like making a polar bear exhibit today. Now I'm going to put a bit of a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode here, and that is, the time-lapse here is not an accurate representation of how the build is actually going to look. After I recorded this time-lapse, I wasn't very happy with how the build actually turned out, and I spent another hour to 2 hours working on the build, and actually, when we do the final tour, the build's going to look significantly different than this, just because I was like, well, I need to make this look a lot better for the people watching. So, yeah, it's gonna look a bit different. Stick around if you want to see the better version of the polar bear exhibit. But anyway, I had a lot of ideas with how to do the polar bear exhibit. I've been kind of floating around with like, what do I want to do with this build? How do I want to make it look for quite a while now? I've been wanting to do this exhibit for ages, really. But I had kind of landed on wanting to do an indoor exhibit for the polar bears, and I'm not really sure why I landed on that idea. I just did, and now it's happened. I think it's because I've seen an indoor like bear exhibit before, and I really liked the look of it. I don't remember where I saw that, but it looked really cool, and you can do some really interesting ideas with any sort of indoor exhibit, and we don't really have that many indoor exhibits in the zoo, so I figured it would look kind of cool. Now, this building went through a lot of iterations here. You can see I'm currently using brownstone for the outline of the wall, and this was a cool look, but I ended up deciding to switch it out for white concrete for two reasons. A, because I thought the white concrete would make a much more interesting background, and B, the brownstone actually worked way better as a rock texture than as a wall texture, in my opinion. Because although we're using stone here, we actually switch out the stone for a variety of different rock textures that give it this really kind of like cold, wet look, like the Arctic. And I thought that looked super duper cool and was far more what I was kind of aiming for. The other reason is here, like I tried to get an interesting looking like transition of color to the white concrete, and I couldn't really get anything that looked quite right, so I just in the end decided to make the entire thing white concrete, as you can kind of see here. Anyway, we're getting the basic shape of the exhibit down. It's not the biggest exhibit. We also only put like 3 bears in, and I probably could have only put, well, actually I was only going to put 2 bears in, but I ended up putting 3 just because there were 3 variants of the polar bear texture, and I wanted to get all 3 because, you know, why not? I thought that would look super duper cool. But anyway, here you can see me switching out the stone for the other rock textures. And I really like the look of this. Again, it's that thing of trying to find little ways to make each exhibit kind of have its own unique feel and give it its own little, like, I don't know, kind of theme and story. And I think this is just phenomenal. I think it really does feel more Arctic-y or more oceanic than what we usually do. It definitely differentiates it from a lot of the other exhibits. Also, for those of you wondering how this is going to look right behind our small animals exhibit, it looks a lot. You don't really actually see as much of it as you would think. You'll see that in the final view of the exhibit. But anyway, I used that clear exhibit glass at the very back to kind of give you a view underwater, because I thought that would be cool. And at this point, I think I decided I wanted to do a a second floor, and I kind of regret that decision. Mostly just because I don't know if it's gonna work out super well. Even after the reworking, I'm not really sure if it's going to be something I keep. You guys can let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. But yeah, overall I have to say this build was pretty interesting to work on. Again, not necessarily my best work. I want to improve it, and I'll probably keep working on it a bit even after this episode, just trying to make it a little bit better, so that way when we do the final tour of the build, at the very end of the series, it'll hopefully look amazing. And yeah, also, if you guys haven't figured it out by now, the building does have a pathway heading out behind the polar bear exhibit, which means this is not the only Arctic animal we'll be doing. We'll probably be doing 1 or 2 others, so you can look forward to that. I'm not gonna say which one it is, but you guys can probably guess which animals we're doing. But yeah, anyway, there's the first attempt at the second floor. That doesn't really stay, it changes, and I think it actually becomes way nicer looking when I go and rebuild this whole thing. And yeah, Anyway, I don't really think I have much else to say, and there's not really much else to show, so I'm gonna catch up with you guys in the final exhibit review. Alright everybody, we are back, and here is the final exhibit. Now, it looks a lot different than it did at the end of the time lapse. And that's because, I'll just be honest here, and I'm sure I've mentioned this in the replay, it didn't look the best. There was a lot of weird stuff. In fact, there's probably still stuff that could be improved, but I think it's in a much better place now. I took basically like a day break between the build and now, and kind of tinkered on it for a little bit longer, kind of kept going to try and find something that I actually quite liked. And yeah, this is what I've landed on. I think this is gonna look really cool. We'll take like a couple of looks in here. We're gonna go into the actual exhibit, go through both the viewing areas and whatnot. But anyway, the lower viewing area, the below water view. And this is what we have. I quite like it. It's very spacious, and I think that's something I need to do with the top one as well. I think it's a bit too cramped up there, but I can always go back and fix that whenever, so yeah. But part of me even wants to potentially remove the top floor and just kind of make this a single floor area, but we'll kind of see what happens. But anyway, this is the water view of the polar bear exhibit. We've got 3 polar bears. I threw a bunch of salmon in here to kind of, you know, make it look a bit more interesting, although it appears most of the salmon are gone. Or I just can't see them. I can't really tell. But yeah, this is what the exhibit looks like from down here. I rather like it. Speaking of which, something I remembered while I was rebuilding this is Chisel had some of these big industrial fan blocks. And I was like, well, you know, we're trying to imagine that this is, you know, it's in an enclosed building, so that way it keeps it at the cool temperatures the polar bears need. I mean, of course we'd have some big air conditioning fans, and that one especially, this big old industrial fan just blasting cold air in. I mean, I think that looks absolutely fantastic. Anyway, if we run up here, we have the second floor, which has its own cool little thing. I like doing, oh yeah, also you can definitely tell it does need a bit more space to it, but I like doing these little pathways every once in a while where it is on a half slab, so that way we have this cool little border down here. But yeah, this is the upper view of the polar bear exhibit. You don't really get to see much of the water, but you get a pretty good view of their little rock island, and a pretty good view of the bears, I think. Which, I have to say, once again, look absolutely fantastic. The models are really good, and I like the texture variation on them. I think that one's probably the more yellowy one. I think that's my favorite out of them all. But anyway, let's actually quickly, I guess we can just break through the window here, or not the window, the ceiling here to get a better view of the inside of the exhibit. And yeah, I actually really like this. I've taken a bit of inspiration from the Raptor house builds we just did in Dinos, with I guess the ceiling in particular, to try and get a good looking, you know, roof for this that doesn't look, you know, too over the top, but also lets in enough natural light and whatnot. And yeah, I think overall this looks really good. I really, really like it. And I think this viewing area actually looks really cool from the inside of the exhibit as well. And I think with a bit more work, this whole area is going to look good. I mean, granted, it's only going to be like 2 animals, or 2 or 3 exhibits, but I think this will look really cool. And it'll be a really cool small addition to the zoo, and, you know, the kind of one of the final builds we have, but I'm very happy with it. Let me know what you guys think of this build. Any suggestions you have for how we can improve it. And yeah, so I mean, I guess by me saying this, and probably from the time-lapse, you guys obviously now know, we are going to add in at least 1, maybe 2 more animals into this little Arctic area. It's not going to be a single animal exhibit. Also, once I finish this little break, I will return back to the savannah, and we'll get the last couple of savannah animals in. And then actually the last few animals overall. It's kind of crazy to think how few episodes we actually have left of this series. But anyway, that's all we have for today. So thank you all for watching. Hope you've all enjoyed. Again, let me know what you guys think of this exhibit down in the comments below, what you think we could improve. And until next time, guys, see ya.